My name is Andiswa Mapheleba. I am in training to be the winemaker for Pongrácz. This is my first vintage, like I just said. I'm alone. 2020 was my year, and I've been making wine now for 2 years almost. But before that, I was studying for 7 years. I started off at Stellenbosch University, where I did my viticulture and enology, and then I followed that with my master's in wine consumer and sensory research, because I realized that there's so much to winemaking other than the actual making process. Obviously, you make a product to be consumed and to obviously generate profit. So in order to generate profit, people need to buy it. But what do you need to know to make people buy it? So basically, that's what made me do that, because I was very interested in how consumers perceive wine, and how we can then channel that into the product. So yeah, basically it's been such an amazing journey working with Pongrácz. So basically Pongrácz is one of the producers of MCC. Now we refer to it as Cup Classic, because we don't want to confuse the consumer. So it's Cup Classic, not MCC. So it's basically pays ode to, or we are inspired by the French traditional method, which is the process goes from, we source our grapes from different parts of the Western Cape, preferably cooler climates, because we want a bit of a high acidity and low sugars, obviously, and you want your wine to ooze finesse and elegance as much as possible. So that's why we harvest our grapes early in the season. When the grapes arrive in the farm, we whole bunch press them into presses, and then we cold ferment the juice. So the juice that we get from there, we lightly press it, so that we don't want any of the harsh, we call it, tannins to get into the resultant wine. And then we cold ferment the wines using selected yeast, of course, the best yeast that we source from different producers, amongst the ones that the French, the champagne producers use. And then upon that, during the fermentation process, we then decide, okay, should this go into this blend or that blend, or what blend? So as a winemaker, it's very important to be consistent, but also, I can't be consistent with my own style, because I didn't have a style to start with. So through my working with Ilunda during the previous winemaker, I then learned to adapt my own style and what I like, especially now. So basically every day we taste the wines, and then we separate the ones that fit to the different categories that I will discuss with you later. And then depending on what we want, we then add wood for wood maturation to the different components that we'd like to add wood to. If we feel that that particular juice would fare well with a better woody or tannin structure, then we add it to barrels, or we use wooden staves, which we literally put wood oak staves or oak parts, chips, big chips inside the tank, so that the wine extracts the oakiness, and it's a quick process, oakiness from the wine, from the wood, to get the oakiness out. And then once the wine is dry being then the sugar will then have completely fermented into alcohol, which is alcoholic fermentation. We then set those portions aside until the very last grape that we have that's fermented dry. Once that's done, it's basically a recipe. Once that's done, we then blend based on what we have seen throughout the vintage, throughout the harvest process, or based on what we want, based on the ranges that we offer at Pongrácz. So basically, Pongrácz has our flagship wine, Desiderius, we have Blanc de Blanc. I wish I had, we can't have alcohol now. I wish I had the different bottles in front of me. So we have Desiderius, Blanc de Blanc, Brut, and Rosé. So Desiderius is our flagship wine, which spends the most time on lees. When I say on lees, it spends the most time on secondary fermentation that happens, which gives it that buttery flavor that you get. So let me go back to not confuse you. So once these blends are done, right, we then bottle the wines, and then based on that, we have a thing called dosage. Dosage is the addition of, it's basically the last fairy dust, I call it, that you can add to a wine in order to perfect it. So different wines have different dosages based on the different ranges that you want to produce. So basically, Desiderius will have its own, Blanc de Blanc will have its own, Pinot Noir will definitely have its own, Rosé will have its own because it's pink, and the Brut. So that's basically that. And I saw one of the questions, what's the difference between the Brut and the Rosé? So basically the Rosé is basically 60% Pinot Noir, which is the pink grape, and 40% Chardonnay. That's then when we make the blends, we then decide, okay, we need to take our best Pinot Noir and our best Chardonnay and incorporate it to make that percentage in order to have that rosé. Same goes for the Brut. The Brut mainly has 40% Chardonnay and 60% Pinot Noir as well. But now you'd say, but it's not as pink. So during the process of winemaking, we use certain agents that remove color. So it is possible to actually make white wine from pink grapes, which is actually what they do in some champagne houses and MCC houses in order to get the different sensory aromas that you want to get as a consumer. Because obviously, if you have a Chardonnay is less fruitier, but more on the bread and the yeasty, has yeasty and buttery components, whereas the Pinot Noir brings in that elegance, that ladylikeness that you get from cherries and raspberry. So if the merger of the two, at your own discretion as a winemaker, will then give you that beautiful wine. And then, so currently we are at this stage, we have not bottled this year's wine. It's still lying in tanks. We have not done the big blends. I'm still waiting for the big bosses to tell us what should be done for the year. But let me tell you, something very exciting is going to be produced by Pongrácz. I can't say, but we're working on a very exciting product for you guys. Yeah. So as I would like more interaction in terms of, can we not get the people on the screens or?
Yeah, I know what you mean. We've got a lot of them, but they're all choosing to take their faces off.
Oh.
Yeah, naughty
Okay.
rats. But we have got a lot of them on mute, and I can unmute them. Okay. So let me just see if I can't just get this gallery view. Is that better? Can everybody see? Can you see that? I'm going to unmute Angel, and I'm going to unmute Danielle, and unmute Peter John, and unmute, well, Grant's hopefully there. Hello, Percy, unmute you. And Sinead, and definitely Devika. Good question from you, darling. And then we've got Ritendo, who's terrific. So yeah, I think Angel was sort of saying, why did you choose the wine industry?
Oh, why I chose the wine industry? Basically, what inspired me to go into the wine industry, I mean, I was just a young girl from the Eastern Cape. I didn't know anything about wine besides drinking it when I wasn't supposed to drink it. But I've always been a person who liked numbers, and I think I'm a bit creative. So I wanted something, and I never liked to do what people did. I liked to deviate from the norm. So I wanted something that where I was from, no one did, but I also wanted to incorporate my. So it was basically my love for creativity and my love for science and biology. And then I realized, you know what, there is a course, but this was obviously with the help of the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries. They had a program where they took us and they basically told us about the different courses that are offered and funded by them. And then I decided to choose that career.
Fantastic, definitely brilliant.
Yeah.
And they also asked, which you did touch on, you know, as you say, you found your perfect style because this is your year. This is your first year that you're doing it all alone.
Yeah.
Very exciting. And
yeah, it is.
And this lovely one, what emotions did you feel the first time one of your products was sold on the shelf? But yours aren't on the shelf just yet, are they?
No. My first product will probably be on the shelf end of next year.
Okay, fantastic.
So, yeah. But I mean, sorry?
So we'll ask you that question at the end of 2021.
Yes. Yeah. So, but
Angel was asking, she's adorable here, she says here, in your own view, what makes a good sommelier, in your own opinion?
For me, I think especially, I'd say the food and wine industry, I don't want to say hospitality, the food and wine industry, all led by senses. So for me, what makes a good sommelier is a person who can, obviously, who's sensorially not gifted, because I was never sensorially gifted. You learn it through practice. It's through familiarizing yourself with different products. It's through familiarizing yourself with what's out there on the market and seeing obviously you need to keep up with what your competitors are doing, obviously. And for me, it's just being relevant and good sensory skills, and then interpreting or translating those skills to your consumer, because obviously you are selling a product to a consumer. It's not only your senses, but you need to also take your consumer into your journey and you need to explain it well, fortunately. So that's my opinion.
I love that. That's absolutely perfect. So one has to keep on tasting to be able to form your own opinions. Yeah. Victor from De Hoek, he asks, where do you get your grapes, especially in the making of the Pongrácz Brut Rosé?
So we source our grapes because we actually, in the wine industry, we basically, it's a very friendly industry, as competitive as it is. We source our grapes from all over the winelands, Western Cape. Like I said, especially from the cooler climates. The Brut Rosé, we source from. There isn't a specific producer that would say that, okay, this person is going to produce a rosé. It's basically what you have at the end of your vintage. When you do your tastings and you're sitting on the chair on that table, and you have all your samples in front of you, and then you taste and decide, okay, this is what's going into it. So it's never a certain producer. It's never a certain area. Okay. It's because obviously, especially even in a vintage like this, Mother Nature is very unpredictable. True. So yeah.
And it's been a bumper harvest, I believe, which has been great.
Yeah. But I mean, the wines were quite good, if I should say so myself.
Angel asks, which wine is your favorite and why?
Oh, I can't say. I'm a big, I won't mention a brand because obviously I have to stick to my brand. But I mean, Pongrácz equally makes its value for money, excellent quality. But I'm a big fan of experimental work. So I like, there's so many untapped producers that are in the, I'd say, underground in South Africa. So I'm a fan of those also. I like playing around with smaller producers. I like also naturally fermented wines for me. Where there isn't, that's actually what's so amazing about MCC, because it's so elegant. It's so, we try to do as little as possible with MCC. So I also like wines like that when you tasting it, you can just literally taste the area. I hope I sound correct.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna put everybody on the spot now because they've each got to ask you one question. So they've already formulated questions for other winemakers. So they may have one at the ready and won't be caught short. So hold on. So Sinead, I'm going to start with you. If you could like Andiswa, go for it.
Well, I'm very curious to know what got you so passionate into this industry. Like, what was that point that made you realize, like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is what makes me happy and excited to get up every morning.
So basically what made me decide to go to this industry was, like I said, my love for science and creativity. But then as soon as I tasted, because during varsity times we used to taste South African and international wines, and I saw, hey man, South African wines are very underrated, and we make such beautiful wines, and I'd really love to be such a part of such an incredible industry where we're not basically led by, but it's just the passion of it. Basically, that's that for me. The gratification that you get when everything's done is just beyond. My first harvest actually like that. Yeah.
Like rewarding.
Yes, it was so rewarding when you're like, oh my word. And then you get to taste it. You're just so impressed. Even actually every morning when you taste your wines and you see the progress, because sometimes it starts out so badly, but then the wine just turns into something so amazing and you're just blown away. So yeah, it's like a baby.
I can imagine.
Of course, you learn from all errors along the way, to find what works best for you personally.
Yes, so I'm still, because I've got a lot of mentors currently at work, because I'm one of the younger workers, and I'm not shy to ask for help. So I found the style, but I want to also stick to the rules, but one day I'll perfect it. Yeah.
Cool. Davika is from Taj, and I'm sure she's got a question for you.
So what is your best piece of advice for someone starting a career in the wine industry?
Advice. The best piece of advice is patience.
It's the key to success.
Yeah, patience and hard work. Entitlement aside, if you're gonna go work in the wine, because most people think the wine industry is so glamorous, it's this, but you have to have the heart for it, and you have to be patient enough. There are times where you're going to be pulling pipes as a winemaker and doing things that you yourself, would find rather difficult or daunting, but that's part of the whole process. That's how you get that wine into that bottle.
Yeah, Rutendo. Yeah, Ravatsanga, she is from Rubens up in Joburg, and she would love to chat to you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much. I'd just like to ask, like you mentioned, the wine industry is not so glamorous. Sometimes you have to pull pipes and everything. How is it for you as a woman, considering, I stand to be corrected, considering this industry seems to be male dominated? How did you find how do you find yourself in the industry as a winemaker?
Yeah, so obviously, there are certain things myself that I can't do physically. And I think the sooner you realize that you can't do certain things and you rely more on people, the better. For me, it's being a woman in the industry is actually an advantage, because we're gems that aren't. There's a number of us, but and I like the fact that we get to learn from each other. Sorry, Tendo, can you my mind just slipped away. Can you just repeat the question again?
Okay, my question was how do you find yourself in the industry? Where do you fit in? Like I said, I feel like, or according to my observations, it seems like it's a male-dominated industry. So in the industry as a woman, do you find any difficulties because of your gender, or it's just the same, men and women, you just treated the same, you just do the same things?
Okay, so yeah, I wanted to say that. So, like I said, it's an advantage. There's an advantage which I mentioned. The disadvantage is that you do get people who will treat you a certain way because you're a woman. But I mean, one needs to really rise above that. It's not about them at the end of the day. It's about what you want. You know where you're going, and you just need to get a move on. So there are people, but not the entire industry is not like that.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Okay, Angel, I know that you're here, and Angel Kuzweyo is with the Durban ICC, and she's working with all the Pongrácz brand products, so she'd love to chat to you.
Okay.
Angel.
Hi. Hello.
Hey.
Hi, Angel.
You?
I'm fine, Angel. How are you?
Well, thank you. I can't wait to see you. I just say that the important thing for me is to know exactly how to pair my food with my wine. It's sparkling wine, so it's a bit tricky. It's not like having red wine and white wine. So can you just elaborate on that side?
How you could pair the wines? Okay, so in our ranges that we have, right? So if I would start from the brut, right? Your brut will be most likely paired with something as neutral as possible, because it's a very neutral wine. You don't want overpowering flavors. And then if we move to your rosé, your rosé is more of a dessert slash, or with dessert you can pair with the noble nectar, because the noble nectar will complement the dessert quite well. But obviously, if you are short of noble nectar, or if you have a dessert that isn't as sweet, that will be overpowered by noble nectar, then you can use your rosé. And then for your more savory wines, you then pair that with our Desiderius, because that's obviously, that wine is as a wine that you can actually drink alone. It's very versatile, but then it also complements foods. Because I remember once I paired it with some mushroom bread with truffles. It really went well with that. So, as well as the Blanc de Blanc. So Blanc de Blanc is also very neutral, but it's richer. So if you have, let's say you want to pair it with let's say a chicken, or I'm not a chicken with that, then that's fine. So obviously your noble nectar, your rosé, you can pair that with your dessert. Your desiderius goes with your most savory flavors, and more neutral flavors are the blanc de blanc and the brut.
Excellent.
Hi, Angel.
Thanks for that, Angel, and definitely Andiswa. Let's just take Peter John. Peter John is from Suntime Square up in Johannesburg, Sun International. He's actually working not with Pongrácz, but he's listening to you now. So Peter John, do you have a question? Peter John, hi.
Now right now, like I'm just following up with everything that is happening. I think I'm learning a lot. So right now I don't have anything to ask though.
Okay, no problem. Let's listen to Grant Ludwigs.
Hi everyone. I got one question though. When you started in winemaking, the first couple of times, or first couple of harvests, what would you say was your favorite bottle or favorite vintage that you actually how can I say harvested with?
So you're asking about the favorite vintage that?
That was one of your first harvests. That is your favorite. That was your favorite.
I can't really hear you. Your line's not very clear. Shania,
yeah, I think he was asking you from your first vintage, what is or any of the wines that you've worked on, what has been your favorite? I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, so I will, for me, a favorite would be.
Oh. Wait, Andiswa, you just hang on, unmute you there. Wait, there. You just, there you are.
Yeah. So basically, for me, and it has really won many awards, is a 2011 Desiderius. That is, for us by far our biggest accomplishment at Pongrácz. So it's a Desiderius 2011. I believe a few stores still have it, but now I think we are phasing into 2012. So if you can get yourself that bottle, you will be very lucky.
Fantastic. Great.
Just one more question though.
Yes.
With that wine, would you say that wine would be more versatile drinking on its own? So would it be better drinking on its own, or would it be more of a versatile wine to be paired with something in food?
Okay.
I think he's asking whether it was a versatile wine that you could drink by itself or that you could pair it with food. That particular one.
Look, all our wines are, you can either pair with food or you can drink alone. It's each to its own. But what I previously stated to Angel about the different wines and the pairings is basically what we would do during our pairings. But you are more than you're more than welcome to just serve it on its own. I mean, we can drink MCC all day, so there isn't a time for it.
I like that idea, definitely. Ayabonga, can you hear me? Cool. Okay, do you want to ask Andiswa a question?
Sorry for being late, Shania.
Don't worry, it's all good.
I don't really have a question prepared. I want to know, and you always want to be in wine industry, or is it something that you picked up as you went along, or is it something that you always wanted to be in?
Thank you for that question. I growing up, I wanted to be in the more traditional careers or occupation. I wanted to be a doctor at some point. I wanted to be an engineer. But then when matric came and I really sat down and I had to decide, and obviously with the help of the department when they exposed us and educated us with the different courses that are actually available, then I realized I don't have to be a doctor. I don't have to be normal. Let me do what my heart feels I must do, and it was winemaking. So yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, we've got Danielle Faree. She's also from Lord Charles, and I'm sure she'll have something for you there.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Danielle.
Hello. What characteristics do you think we can expect in your wine coming from your harvest now? Characteristics.
Elegance, finesse, which is what we always try to aim for, which is what the entire MCC, the Cap Classic producers all aim for: elegance, finesse, and you don't want an overpowering wine. You just want a wine that just is pleasant to drink. So basically, I'm not saying we have a recipe, but we try to stay consistent with what the consumers want. And that is basically, even this year, our wines were just amazing, even though at some point we did harvest some of our grapes quite late, and then the sugars, we thought the sugars and the acidity weren't gonna balance quite well. But in the end, like I said, when you follow the process, then you realize actually things actually work out in the end. So it's basically like softness, elegance, finesse, what you're supposed to get from an MCC.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Andiswa. Really and truly, it's such an honor to have you with us, and such a privilege as well to have your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
We look forward to engaging with you, hopefully not in the too distant future.
Yes, please, yes. I will forward the questions to you for the rest of the people so that they can have something for that. Obviously, I couldn't cover everything, but I hope I have did you guys. I didn't waste your time. I did you guys justice. I did my brand justice, just to tell you a bit about what we do and how we are coping in these times.
Perfect. It's such an inspiration to have you with us, really and truly. All the best, and I hope you're back. Do you say you're back to work tomorrow?
Yeah, today was my first day back.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes, yes.
Well, good luck with this, and we look forward to the fruits of it all.
Oh, thank you so much, guys, and all the best for the rest of the year. And I can't wait to meet the rest of you guys one day.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, thanks so much, eh? Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye.